Pardon?
Go ahead.
Google upends traditional search, how law firms can win Google's new everything, everywhere, all at once AI search. I'm Jeff Lance. I'm an attorney and the CEO of Esquire Interactive. And also presenting with me today is Desiree Martinelli. Desiree is also an attorney, and she is the Director of Marketing and Analytics for Esquire Interactive. So this presentation should be right around 30 minutes. We might get done just a minute or two before then. If you have any questions, please feel free to add your questions in the chat box, and then we'll go ahead and we'll cover any questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, let's get started.
Hey, Jeff, should we wait for 1 second just to make sure everybody's cycled in? And just give it 1 minute?
Sure, we can wait. We can wait another couple minutes. Just let me know when you'd like me to start.
Okay. Just in case we have a couple of stragglers coming in, would be great. But yes, please feel free to put any questions in the chat. That way we know that, that way we can get back to them. All right, Jeff, I say go for it.
Okay, let's get started. So what just happened? Well, what happened was on May 20th and 21st, Google had its annual, what it calls the I/O conference. This was I/O 2025 conference. And in this conference, Google unveiled a whole number of comprehensive suite of AI innovations to power search, in addition to a lot of other AI innovations that are outside of search. We're only going to cover the key ones that are related to search today. So the first thing, or one of the things that Google did, is it rolled out what it calls its AI mode in search. And this can be thought of kind of as an end-to-end conversational experience powered by Gemini. Gemini, for those of you who don't know, Gemini is Google's AI tool. And Google, in connection with this, Google also mentioned that it's going to be expanding its AI overviews, which probably most of us have seen now when we do search. What Google is really doing in the AI mode in search is they're going to make this to be more like ChatGPT or Gemini or other versions that are like those two different services, meaning that what Google wants you to do is ask questions, ask queries, and then Google is going to be prioritizing the AI overviews and the AI responses over the traditional links to, in our case, law firm websites. The second thing that Google announced is that it's going to be using what it calls deep search in AI mode. And what this is when someone searches a query like, who is the best personal injury lawyer in Arizona, instead of doing what they've done in the past, which is just to look at different law firm websites that it's indexed, and then picking out the law firm that maybe gets the highest score with response to doing on-site SEO optimization and getting incoming links and things like that. Google is going to be using a large language model and basically fanning out across the internet to ask that same query and related queries in order to develop the AI overview response. And I'll describe a little bit more in just a little bit about what that looks like in more detail. Another interesting thing that Google announced are two things called Google Lens and Project Astra. These are built around images and video, and these are going to be ways that you can interact with Google through video. For instance, if you have a video and you want to ask maybe Google about questions that relate to the video, Google's AI is going to be able to provide responses. And then lastly, another real cool thing that Google announced it's not yet live, but it's called agent mode, which is going to be really, really cool. This is where you can go into Google and ask questions like, hey, Google, get me 2 tickets to the Who concert. And Google is going to go across or span the internet, and then it's going to purportedly, this isn't live yet, but give you give you responses and everything to where you could actually just make the purchase right there in the search results. So search really looks a lot different, and that's one of the main things that Desiree and I want to talk about today. On the right-hand side, you see the orange box for traditional SEO. This is things that we've all been used to doing if we're doing SEO to try to promote our firm or our clients' firms, which is basically you do the on-page SEO, you optimize pages around, car accident lawyer or something like that. you do all the meta tags, you write really good content, and then you try to get incoming links from other websites to give your site more authority. And then Google will have, in essence, almost like a score for the different websites. And then based upon which website has the highest score, that's what website will show up first in the search results. So that's going to still happen, but the traditional search links are going to be pushed down further on the search results page. And what Google is going to be doing is more like the boxes, the orange boxes on the left-hand side of the screen with AI. It's going to be using different AI tools that it's developed. For our purposes, this mostly is the AI mode or Gemini, which again is kind of like Google's version of ChatGPT, as well as deep search. So Google is going to, instead of like assigning like values for websites and then based upon particular search terms, coming up with a rank order, what Google is going to be doing is going like all across the web and trying to look for, in essence, like who does the web really think is the best personal injury lawyer? So another way to think about this is sort of bifurcated search results. And what I mean by bifurcated is that Google is going to put the AI search results first. If there are AI search results, increasingly that will be the case. They're going to be giving the priority by Google, showing these results at the top of the search results page. And then the traditional website link results that we've been used to for the last 15 or 20 years or whatever, those are going to be pushed down further and further in the page, which means that for your law firm to get more visits to your law firm's website, you're going to increasingly need to understand what you can do to be included in the top in the AI overview search results, because that's really what most people are going to be seeing. So the other thing that Google is kind of working towards is what we would think of as sort of a semi-closed ecosystem, kind of like ChatGPT. And what I mean by that is if you're using ChatGPT, typically what you might do is you go to ChatGPT, you ask ChatGPT a question, or you ask ChatGPT to do something, ChatGPT pushes out the responses, and then you can go on and you ask ChatGPT to do the next thing or answer the next question that you might have. So ChatGPT isn't going to really be sending you outside to external sources. For the most part, it's going to be keeping everything right in the ChatGPT ecosystem. And that's kind of what Google is doing as it rolls out AI. So what Google is really sort of interested in is they want to kind of keep you there within their ecosystem. Hopefully at some point you're going to click on an LSA or a pay-per-click ad. And that's what actually generates revenue for Google. So that's why Google wants you to stay there. Maybe they're going to be coming up with additional things later on, in addition to LSAs and LSAs and pay-per-click ads that will make them money. I don't know, but that's my guess is that they'll probably figure out something. So importantly, you should know that kind of like Facebook and Hotel California, Google doesn't want users to leave. Google wants to keep you there. And then eventually, like I said, stay and hopefully click on an ad or something that's going to generate revenue for Google. So here's another example of kind of what's happened in the past. We might enter a query like one of the three on the left-hand side. What time is in Australia? What's the standard deduction for IRS tax purposes? Or if you're like me, you're a Bears fan, you might just put in what's the Bears schedule for 2025. Well, in the past, when we enter a query like that, for the Bears schedule, for example, Google will give us a link to go to maybe the Bears official website or maybe the NFL official website. And then when I click on that link, then I'll be able to see the Bears schedule for 2025. That's no longer the case. Any questions like this that Google's AI can figure out, what they're going to do, they might still put these links in at the bottom, but what they're going to be doing is they're going to be answering these questions or providing this information right there in the AI overview. So that's something for all of us to consider and understand that that's where Google is moving to. Google really doesn't care about driving users to websites. They're still going to put the links and they're still going to provide that information for people that may want a lot more in-depth information. But generally what they're really trying to do is they're trying to present answers to user queries directly on the search landing page, again, which is kind of obvious for users to click on links and go to other websites for more information.
So, what exactly is the effect that all of this is going to have with it moving all those organic search results down the page? Well, first of all, organic traffic visits are going to go down significantly because Google's providing the answers in the AI overview. There's no need to keep going down the page to figure out what the answer is. And as a result of this, more premium real estate is really going to be given just to the AI overview and paid ads. You just need to be very mindful of that. So, as a firm, what should you be doing? Well, first of all, law firms need to understand the new search rules. As you're watching this program, you're probably setting yourself up for success, so that's great. And two, you want to make sure that you are developing a focused strategy for creating authority. Now, gone are the days of you just being able to blog constantly and stuff a bunch of keywords in that page and then get some backlinks and then show up really high in the Google search results. That no longer is actually going to work under this new AI search. Instead, you need to make sure that your firm is positioned as an authority. And you can do that by disseminating your information to as many possible sites so that when Google's bots go out and crawl the internet, they're able to find more information about you and you're more likely to show up in those AI search results. One little mantra that you need to take with you, you need to now be thinking with this mindset. Do not focus only on on-site SEO. No longer is that going to get you to where you want to be. Instead, like I said, you need to be seen as a true authority across the web. Just like you need more cowbell, you need more authority. And we're going to be giving you very specific tips on what you can do to do that shortly. So let's take a look at an example. What happens now when you search for something on the AI search results? So let's say that we go to Google and we put in who is the best personal injury lawyer in Arizona. Well, now you're not going to see organic search results popping up. You see the AI overview, which Google did roll this out several months ago, so you may be familiar with this. But what will happen now is you're going to see a bunch of suggested links to firms. But in addition to this, Google's also trying to anticipate other questions or things that you may want to know about. So there's also this little show more section. And when you click this, it's going to expand and give you additional information. And I really want to call your attention to this. So when we did this search in the show more section, it said key considerations when choosing a lawyer. And then it highlighted a bunch of points like free consultations, fee structures, experience, expertise. And the thing about that is next to each of these is a little blue circle with a link icon. These actually go or bring you to websites or to GMB profiles. So the thing that you want to be thinking about here is, well, how can I make sure that Google is going to show me as much as possible in these search results? Well, you can do so by incorporating this type of information both on your website, and then like I said, you don't want to just focus on on-site SEO, so you want to go to other places like your Google business profile, Quora, Reddit, different things, and make sure that you're talking about these as well. You could even go a step further and create an article just about the key considerations when choosing a lawyer, and you could talk about each of these points. The reason being is because if Google thinks that they're important, then you need to think that they're important. And this is a really quick way to find out what you should be writing about on your site.
So earlier I mentioned about the fantail, the extended searches that Google is using. It's called AI mode or deep search. So what exactly does that look like? So let's say if you take a look at the Google, the G logo in the very middle, and you ask a question, you put a question like, who is the best PI lawyer in Arizona? So now instead of, as I mentioned before, about just like looking at specific law firm websites that Google's is indexed and try to figure out which one should be given the top ranking and the listings, what Google is doing now is that it does kind of a fan out thing, because what it's doing, it's using a large language model, and it's sending out queries and can send out lots of queries to lots of sites very, very fast. So it could send out queries to like X or Avo or Pinterest or even Quora, for instance. And in addition to sending out the main query that this person might have put in, like who's the best PI lawyer in Arizona, you can see at the top, these other blue bubbles, Google could also be asking other things like highly recommended PI lawyers or best rated PI lawyers near me. So what Google is doing is using that large language model to get a ton of information that it gets collected and it gets processed extremely quickly. And then once it gets that information, does is if you look at the bottom blue circle, the AI overview output, it takes all of that information in connection with your query and it creates the AI overview output. It's very similar to what ChatGPT is doing if you've used ChatGPT. But the important thing here is to understand that the way that Google is doing this is very different than the traditional output that it has been doing. So what can you do? What are good things for law firms to think about now, and what changes might you want to do? Well, first of all, Google really is going to focus on authority. And so one of the things, if you've gotten into the mode of just like, let's put out 3 blog posts every week, and the content may not be all that good, it may not be very lengthy, it may be what sometimes is called thin content, which is content that just really doesn't provide a lot of helpful information, you should stop doing that. And what I mean by that is if you're putting out a blog post that says something like, if you were injured in a car accident in Chicago, you need a Chicago personal injury lawyer. That type of content is going to be seen as thin. I'll talk in just a second about what you can do to make your content more authoritative, but this is one of the things that you don't want to do if you are doing. So next, let's think about the specific things that you should do in conjunction with Google's new AI algorithms. The first thing that you should do that we would suggest is you develop a plan. And the plan really needs to be done around 3 specific aspects. You want to be thinking about, first of all, building brand trust. Why should your law firm really be an authority to Google? Once you figure that out in terms of the specific areas that you might want to do for your brand, you want to create authoritative content so that Google is going to recognize your firm and its AI output and AI overviews is maybe the suggested place for people to go when they're searching for things relative to your law firm's practice. And then third, as Desiree mentioned just real briefly, once you get those first 2 things together and you're building all this content on your own properties, which could be your website, it could be your Google business profile, and certain other properties, you want to think about how can you amplify this content so that this content actually gets disseminated throughout the web. So let's talk first about building brand trust. What does that really mean? So let's take an example here. Say your firm focuses on protecting whistleblowers and getting compensation for whistleblowers, maybe under the False Claims Act and Keaton provisions. And so you're thinking about what we want to really establish for our brand is we are the leading whistleblower rights law firm for government employees. Okay, so you can, in the past, you would take something like that and you would optimize pages around like whistleblower law firm, whistleblower attorney, and things like that. Now it's going to be important to go a definite large step further. You want to think about, as an example, identifying the workplace protections that government workers have. You want to create content about worker rights, what is illegal, what to do in certain situations, like if workers understanding that there's like some kind of illegal practice that may be perpetrated against the government. And then also you want to position the lawyers at your firm as experts in this area. So again, this goes way beyond just writing a page that's optimized around a whistleblower lawyer. The next thing you want to do is, I mentioned, is you want to create authoritative content. So that's easy to say, but what does that really look like? Well, these are some examples of things that you can do in your content that is going to help establish authority. Include statistics, charts, graphs, link to government websites. Definitely think about including FAQs, both FAQ written content and FAQ videos. Include author bios, include author credentials. Do references to statutes, state bar associations, the IRS. You might even want to write in the first person voice. You could also do things like you could include stories or hypotheticals. As an example, if your firm practices in estate planning, you might create like a hypothetical about, what happened when Mary Smith died and she didn't have a will, and she told all 3 of her adult children that they were all going to inherit the same piece of jewelry, maybe her diamond ring or something like that. You can explain these types of things. That's what Google is looking for. And then lastly, one other thing is LSI, which is latent semantic indexing. That's just a fancy way of saying terms that are similar. So for instance, if you're writing a page about car crash, you can talk about car accidents, car crashes, car wrecks, things like that.
All right, let's get into some very specific recommendations for what you can do to create authoritative content designed specifically for this new AI search. So these are the steps that we are taking with our clients, or that I like to take, but you can, tweak these accordingly. So to start, I always turn to the analytics. We have proprietary reports called Metrics reports that we use, but you can use Google Analytics or GA4 reports or whatever else that you're using. But you wanted to determine the top performing landing pages on your site. So on our Metrics reports, we actually have this top landing page section. So I will go there, and what I'll do is I'll determine the pages that are really getting the most traffic from your site. So say that you have like 1,000 pages on your site. If only 10 of those are actually getting traction or getting 99% of the traffic, well, that's where you should be putting your focus. You don't need to worry about those other pages, because honestly, the 10 pages that are getting the traction are really your bread and butter. So you want to make sure that you have a list of those and that you focus on those primary pages first. Then you need to be thinking, okay, how can I revise this content to be more authoritative? Well, you want to think about this, though, more so in the context of AI search. So AI search is triggered by questions and queries. It's not just, if you just put in a basic keyword, sometimes Google will still show the organic keywords. Although, a little note here, over time, I kind of anticipate that the AI mode is going to become the only mode they offer. So that probably will go away in the long run. But what you want to be thinking about is, okay, what type of questions are people asking when they're looking for my particular type of services? And a little shortcut to this is actually by going to the People Also Ask section. So you probably have seen this in the Google search results, but with this AI search, this is going to become even more robust. But I have a shortcut for how you can find these very quickly. So there is a really cool tool called Answer the Public. This gives you like 3 free queries a day, or if you want more, you can pay for more. I use just the free plan. But essentially what this allows you to do is take a keyword and search your particular area, and it will tell you all of the People Also Ask queries that are related to that specific keyword. So what you need to do is take those 10 pages that you have, you want to focus on them one by one and say, okay, this first page, I have it optimized for these keywords or these particular queries, put those into Answer the Public, and then identify all of the People Also Ask queries, and then you want to make a list of those. And the reason why is because you're now going to take those and supplement your content with any of those questions that you haven't previously addressed. But I like to take this even one step further. So I don't want to just address the People Also Ask questions. I also want to know what my competitors are ranking for that I am not. And the way that I do this is by running a content gap report. So I use Ahrefs, but there are other tools out there too that do a similar thing and show you similar results. But in Ahrefs, you can run specifically a content gap report. And what this is it will actually go out and scan all of your competitors' websites, and it will say, okay, these are the keywords that your competitors are writing about and ranking at the top of the Google search results that you are not ranking for. So essentially it highlights all of the terms and queries that you are not getting traction for that your competitors are, so that you can take those and then incorporate it into your content. So I'll go ahead and make a list and go through all those keywords and queries that come through that content gap report, and I'll also put those on my list of things that I'm going to incorporate into that content. So from here, I'll go ahead and optimize the content, incorporating in the People Also Ask terms and also those keywords or themes that my competitors are ranking for. And once I have my page to a really good place where I think it's really solid and authoritative, I then want to go ahead and do just a double check. And the way that I do this is by going to Surfer SEO. So this tool actually will scan either a URL, or you can directly upload content right into the tool, and it will go out and look at the competitors that are ranking at the highest on Google for those particular search terms in your particular local area, and it will grade your particular page compared to theirs on a 1 to 100 scale. So essentially it may say, oh, your page is a 65, and the top ranking competitor on Google is an 85. But it goes a step further than that. It then goes and gives you specific recommendations on what you can actually do and incorporate into your page to raise your score. So it'll do things like giving you additional terms to use. So Jeff mentioned earlier that latent semantic indexing. So it will give you those related terms you should be incorporating into your text that are going to signal to Google that this is really, really authoritative and it's about this particular topic. It also will tell you if you are overusing the primary keywords or underusing them. If you're overusing them, sometimes Google will actually penalize your page. So you want to be making sure that you're using just the right amount of time. So it will tell you if you're over or underutilizing things. It also will tell you if your page needs to be longer, how many images you should incorporate, and a bunch of other little tidbits that can optimize your page to make it more authoritative. All right, so once I have gone through the recommendations and revised my content to get it scoring higher than that top competitor on Google, then I know that I probably have done just about all that I can to make it the best that it possibly can. So then I will take it, upload it to my website, and then immediately submit this page to Google Search Console. That way that it can be indexed by Google immediately. So I don't have to wait for the bots to crawl it. I then can just make sure that Google has all those updates automatically, giving me the best chances of showing up in that AI overview or where else I would like to show up. Okay, so this next tip is not directly related to content, but this is a super important one. So I highly recommend going right now and updating your Google business profile. This is also sometimes referred to as GMB. That's what they used to be called, Google My Business Profiles. The reason being is because if you actually use Google's new AI mode exclusively and you ask it for like a rank of the top 10 PI attorneys in Arizona, it will actually give you a listicle with links on it. But now, instead of those links going to a firm's page, a lot of times they now will just go straight to their Google business profile. And the reason being is because, as Jeff talked about earlier, Google wants to keep you in this closed ecosystem so that it can really get you to click on as many ads as possible. And to do this, it's going to push you into services that it owns. So things like Google Business Profile, YouTube, which it also owns. So it's going to push you to those sites. So because of that, you want to make sure that you're making the best first impression on those sites possible. So make sure that you go and update your Google Business Profile. And one little note here, Google recently started incorporating social links on Google My Business Profiles. So you'll be able to put in like your LinkedIn, your Facebook, YouTube, and have links to all those on that profile. So I highly encourage you to do that. That's going to make it easier for Google's bots when they're crawling the internet to be able to find other sites that are related to your firm. And again, that's going to give you a better chance of appearing higher in those AI, areas where they're generating just automatic search results.
Okay, so now that you've gotten your brand, you understand that you need to expand your brand and talk about a lot more things other than just the type of law you practice. You're doing FAQs and you're doing all these other things. The last step is to amplify your content across the internet. And what this looks like is you want to establish authority. Just think about it. I want to establish authority across the web. How do I go about doing that? Well, on the screen now, you can see a whole bunch of other sites that you should definitely be focusing on or thinking about focusing on, because the large language models that Google is using now, again, are going to be searching a lot of information to try to find out, who's the best personal injury lawyer, or, basically every other question that people might do in a search. The starting point is going to be definitely your website. But as Desiree mentioned, and what I'd also like to emphasize, is Google is also going to be placing more emphasis on business profiles. So again, take the chance to go in, or take the opportunity to go in, optimize your profile, make sure that you're including social media links and things like that. Update them. You can update them when you do a new blog post or an FAQ or something on your website. You can go ahead and promote these things through your Google Business Profile. So definitely take advantage of that. Think about other places that you can get your website or get your content for your firm out across the internet. In the past, we were looking at just getting links from a lot of these sites that are shown on the screen. Now we actually want to see if we can get more content out there, especially things like reviews across the web. That's going to be really, really helpful. So we're right at about 30 minutes, so that concludes the presentation. But if we have any questions, we do have time to answer questions.
I don't see any questions yet, Jeff, so I think that we are good. I'll give it just a second, but I don't see any coming through. But if you guys do have any questions after this presentation, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach Jeff at jeff@esquireinteractive.com, or you can reach me at Desiree@esquireinteractive.com. You can also call us at 520-395-6525, and we would love to chat